Welcome to this segment of Farm Show TV. Today we are in Saskatoon, the home of Q-Line Trucking. And joining me today is President of Q-Line Trucking, Reg Quiring. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Tell me a little bit about Q-Line Trucking, an almost 30-year-old company.
Right, so we started, well, we say we started in 1994. My brother started it just prior to that. He was on the farm, and he still does farm, and we do as well. We started with 2 trucks, and we have grown it into a company that now I think employs just around 500 people, and we have operations all through Western Canada, in the north, in Yellowknife, in the Arctic, as well as in the United States. So it's been a good ride. It's lots of challenges, but it's been very rewarding.
Speaking of your employees, I watched some great videos. Due to COVID challenges, you couldn't have your awards ceremony, but I thought it was worth noting that you have some employees that have been here for 20 and even 25 years.
Right, yeah. So this year we had 25-year award. We had a couple, I think, last year as well, and we've had a bunch of 20s and a bunch of 15s. We've been blessed, really, with good retention of staff, so that's important. Without staff, without good people, it just doesn't work.
So in terms of shipping grain across the prairie, so I'm a farmer, my farm is in Mossbank, Saskatchewan. Somehow we have to get that grain all the way to typically Port of Vancouver and elsewhere around the world, and trucking plays a pretty key role in that. In terms of the railways, we have very low competition. There's basically 2 railways on the system. As opposed to the trucking industry, which I would put in the highly competitive category. How has that made your company better?
Well, I mean, competition always makes everything better, I think. We're all, we're tested on our efficiencies, on our productivity, on our execution of a plan. We're tested at that all the time. So, yeah, no, competition is, obviously in business, competition sometimes pushes the bottom line, but it makes you better. It makes you a better company, more efficient. Just unlike farming, there's competition in pricing and in costs and everything that makes everybody strive to be a little bit better, and I think we've done a good job.
So Reg, the trucking industry and agriculture are very interconnected, and it isn't just about Q-Line truck showing up at my farm to take a load of canola. There's a lot of other pieces of the puzzle, the fertilizers, the inputs, the construction pieces, fabrication. Do you want to talk a little bit about that connection?
Right, so I mean, our company specifically, we're farm-based. We started on the farm, we still do farm, so agriculture is kind of near and dear to our heart, right? And I've said this before, we have offices on the West Coast and the North. We're in the oil and gas business, but give me a farm customer, whether it's a implement dealer or a manufacturer or a farm producer, I'll take them any day, because just the culture is something we like and we're accustomed to and we appreciate. To bring in the other aspects of agriculture into our business is farm implements. So we haul farm implements. There's a tremendous amount of combines and tractors and swathers and sprayers and all that kind of stuff that gets hauled and gets moved around, and used stuff as well. There's that aspect. But then there's the whole next layer. So there's grain bins and grain handling systems and equipment for that. And then there's elevation systems, all that kind of stuff, grain dryers. But then we get into like the potash industry, right? So potash is agriculture, so we have potash mines here. So now we support the potash industry, where there's always wear parts that need to be replaced, and there's belting and all sorts of stuff that happens. So in our Western Canada, agriculture plays a tremendous role in the general economy, and we try to be a part of that as much as we can.
Thanks so much, Reg. Let's go take a tour.
Thank you. So this is our bulk operations group, and what we do, the key about our bulk trucks is, a bulk truck, different than a long haul deck truck, will load and unload up to 2 or 3 times a day, right? So there's lots of specifics required. So thus we have our operations spreadsheet, if you will, all across, and we have it by days going forward, so we know we can pre-plan ahead. The key too is there is these things called unload times or dump times at grain terminals, and they're very specific, down to sometimes 8 and 10 minute intervals. So we got to make sure that we hit those dump times properly, because we want to have efficient use at the facilities. So these guys will communicate with our drivers, typically via the satellite tracking system. It's kind of like texting, but they get it on a tablet in their trucks. Or there's just good old cell phones too when they need to talk to somebody. These guys run an operation here. It's Monday to Friday, and some of the trucks will run on the weekends. But in peak seasons like seeding and harvest and things like that, we'll go extended hours.
Would that be one of the biggest differences between grain and some of the other commodities, products that you haul, is the timing, kind of the surge, the after harvest surge, the seeding surge?
Yeah, definitely that happens in the bulk business for sure. So there's seasonalities in all the different groups, right? So the manufacturers that manufactured farm equipment, they'll have their specific seasons of shipping. The trick in our business is we try to time the surges so they don't overlap each other and try to always be in a surge, but it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
So
tell me if you figure that out.
Yeah.
Joining us now is Leah Strudwick, Bulk Sales and Business Development Coordinator here at Q-Line Trucking. Thanks so much for joining us, Leah.
Thanks for having me.
So you're busy, and I thought we would focus on the busy parts of your day as they relate to grain shipments.
Okay.
So tell us how important moving grain is to Q-Line Trucking Company.
Well, I would say it's probably about 50% of what we do. It helps a lot with making sure that our drivers don't have to run empty miles. That's kind of a key point with trucking, is making sure that they're loaded one way or the other. So we usually will send fertilizer out and then pick grain up to get them back into, and it adds to backhauls that we have. Also, I mean, grain is the point, what everybody does. It's a big thing, especially in the province that we live in, and obviously Alberta and Manitoba. Those are the three that we stick with. And I mean, having that pulse out there, having the grain fully available to bring back all of the time, we can get into a situation where we have fertilizer going out, and there's usually something within about 100-kilometer distance that we can bring back on a backhaul. So it's really important for our guys too. I mean, they want to be full the whole time. They want to be loaded either way. So it helps with that.
Good for efficiency.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely.
The kind of the purpose of that logistic nightmare that you have to work with is
Yeah.
making sure that those trucks are full and it's efficient. And,
Yeah,
right.
definitely.
So on a pretty regular basis, you deal with farmers.
Yes.
And it's important for us as farmers to have good communication with trucking companies so that that movement is efficient. I'm sure it's important to you to have good communication with farmers. So what do you want farmers to know about your side of moving grain?
Like you said, communication is key. That's kind of what makes things flow as easily. We live in a province where it's snowing one day, raining the next, 50 below, and then now, 0. So having that open line of communication, I do a lot of texting with farmers because obviously there's areas where they don't have good cell service, or they can just text me at 6 o'clock at night and say, okay, we got to cancel this because my auger's down or something's happened. So having that line of communication is clutch. Also, I mean, knowing that we have a lot of variables and obstacles to get through on our side as well. We have inventory issues. RMs have different weights that we can only pull out of so in any given time of the season, we have to know legally what we can pull out of there. So that's kind of an obstacle to get through. We have mechanical issues. When it's minus 47, we don't really have a lot of trucks that can go, or we'll try to go, but doesn't really work out. So it's just understanding that there are obstacles that we have to go through to get the loads delivered and picked up. But for the most part, just keeping that communication open so that the driver knows what you're doing, under promise and overachieve. That's kind of what we do. So we tell them realistically what we can do, and usually that works out best for our team.
So this is the other side of our business. This is our deck fleet operations. So we have basically 3 different groups in here. We have a flatbed group, which hauls just general flatbed freight. Then we have what we call a heavy haul. Heavy haul is anything that goes for shipments typically starting at about 65,000 pounds to about 165,000 pounds that we work out of here. And then we have our permit group in here too. So we do all our own over-the-road permits, because when you're hauling over dimensional freight, you need that. and pilot trucks, escort vehicles, that kind of thing. So we have this group in here. This is where all the operations occur on that. We have separate groups that, for instance, these people over here to my left, all they do is they make permits for applications for over-dimensional freight. So they're dealing with the various Department of Transportations in all the different jurisdictions, whether they're provincial or the US states, because there's different rules and regulations, so we have to apply and buy a permit for that. This is our customer service group. The customer service people are dealing with customers, basically working on orders, updating customers on status of loads, creating new orders, things like that. This is what we call our sales group over here, and the sales group are the people that deal with the customer directly. They work on pricing, on quotes, that kind of thing, and they source all our freight. We have some other, duties in here intermixed, but by and large, this is our group here. So we also have offices in other locations, not nearly this big, where the other offices are, 4 to 6 people. That's about it.
How long have you been in this building?
This building is new. This building, we planned to build this building, and we moved in about 40 days before COVID hit. So we were glad because we were crammed in the other building pretty tight.
Yeah.
So this helped us out.
Yeah,
So
growing room.
we've got.
Very good.
So we'll take you to our training side. So this is our safety room, and where we do our driver training and orientation.
Okay.
Our drivers typically come in for 4 days of orientation. The orientation includes a driver test, obviously. They do some in-truck training and testing, and then they do about 2 or 3 days in here, and they go through a whole bunch of procedures and policies and safety training. We do everything for dangerous goods, for fertilizer, hauling, anhydrous ammonia, that kind of thing. We do that as well.
Reg, earlier when you were chatting, you had mentioned the Humboldt bus crash. And I think the perception at that time was that the industry standards weren't safe enough. But I'm gathering from you in our conversations that the standards were very high, they always have been, and they continue to improve.
They do, yeah. The standards were always there, and again, I don't want to minimize the impact of that accident, because what it did is it just brought a light on an industry that was doing, I thought, pretty good, but we all needed to improve, right? So I think that there's certain facets that we always need to improve, so we're working on that diligently. And part of that is our ongoing training. We do ongoing training with our drivers all the time. We have driver coaches that follow them, like I mentioned with the cameras earlier, and so there's all that kind of thing.
Joining us as well from Q-Line is Brock Gerling, the safety manager here in Saskatoon, and we are in the training room. Brock, as a farmer, we put several of our employees over the years through truck driver training programs. And we've seen a big change. You used to be able to go in, challenge the exam. If you were a good driver, you could walk out with your trucking license. And there's been big changes in the industry since then. One, it's a lot more expensive. It takes a lot more time. Our employees are gone for weeks at a time to get their training programs, and certainly the standards are that much higher. Can you share with us, what happens in this room when you've got entry-level truckers coming in to get their licensing?
Yeah, I think with the implementation of the mandatory entry-level training, I think it's been a positive aspect to the transportation sector. We're seeing a lot more drivers come in with a lot of knowledge and skill now. Before, we used to not hire any new drivers. We'd want them to have experience, but we would rather prefer hiring a new to the industry driver right out of training.
So that you can train them.
So we can train them to
okay.
kind of to what standards we have.
Okay.
Right?
I'll give you an example. I was telling Reg that my daughter, she's 15 now, and she's interested in getting her trucking license. What will she be exposed to? What does that even look like? And let's say she wants to be a trucker and work for Q-Line. What does that hiring process look like?
She would have to obtain her Class 1A license first.
Yeah, she's jumping the gun. She already wants her semi-license, but yeah, right.
Yeah. So we've got, we have an onboarding process where we kind of do background checks. We'll bring them in, interview them, and then we'll kind of see what type of sector they would fit within our Q-Line operation group.
In terms of short haul, long
Yeah,
haul,
short
bulk.
haul, long
Okay.
haul, yeah, bulk, heavy haul, that kind of thing. And then 3-day orientation, which includes online and in class and then practical as well. So.
Okay. Once you have your trucking license, your obligation to continue training is not over. How many times would a trucker come in for additional training?
I guess that would be up to each trucking company to kind of plan. I know for us, we do quarterly training, which we require a minimum of 6 to 8 hours training every quarter. And we kind of change it based on kind of what we see as a need to our drivers out there in the industry. So.
Anything you can share about the industry that might entice more people to put in an application? There's a lot of jobs available for.
Yeah, I think it's a great. A lot of people don't look at driving as kind of a unique thing to do. There's a lot of skill involved when it comes to being a Class 1A driver. A lot of people don't really realize that, and if you get to know the industry and you get to know the drivers, a lot of them have true passion and pride for the industry, and you'll see that it's a very skilled trade.
Probably not a better way to see the province or see the country.
That is correct, yeah.
Yeah, good. Thanks
Yeah.
so much for your time today,
Awesome.
Brock.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate the chance to be here in the training room.
Good, thank you.
That's a wrap on our tour at Q-Line Trucking here in Saskatoon and our conversation around grain transportation and logistics. Reg, thank you so much for hosting us here at your facility. It's obvious from meeting with so many of your employees that you've got a company really worth being proud of.
Thanks very much. I appreciate the time and the ability to just show our industry to the public. Trucking is a great industry, and we're really proud of our company and how we've tied, agriculture is our roots, and we want to continue to grow our company, but and be proud of being part of the agriculture industry.
Well, congratulations on almost 30 years.
Thank you.
You can watch this segment of Farm Show TV on our website, canadasfarmshow.com, anytime, anywhere.